DTV, your TV on the go.
Got stuff.
Ooh, you weren't kidding.
I mean a lot of stuff.
This is crazy, and I mean that in a good way.
In a new series, Matt Paxton and his team are helping folks clear out their clutter.
This is great!
Collect all their valuables.
This is like finding a Picasso.
Then cash in and split the profits.
We went from piles of stuff to piles of cash.
I can't thank you guys enough.
Filthy Fortunes. Tonight, 8:30 on Discovery.
For Sam Darry, he's brought greater physicality to his game this year. Here now, into the corner, oh, Tom, he scored!
Hello, this is Midday News. Thanks for joining us. About 13 people sustained serious injuries during a car incident this morning at the National Research Institute roundabout in the nation's capital. The casualties, both male and female, all adults, were assisted by the St. John ambulance and were taken to the Port Moresby General Hospital for medical assistance. They were travelling in a PMV bus, Route 4, when they encountered the incident. According to an eyewitness, the PMV bus was driving hard from Nautana towards the NRI roundabout, missed its lane, and rolled over to the side of the road. The bus hit the nature park fence and stopped. An environmental advocate in Milne Bay Province has expressed concern over the brutal appearance of traditional fishing practices once used sustainably by coastal communities in the region. Eco-Custodian Advocate Director David Mitchell says some of these age-old methods passed down through generations are no longer practiced, posing a cultural and environmental loss for Milne Bay. Among the practices highlighted by Mitchell are the use of coconut shell rattles to attract sharks, a technique similar to the famous shark collars of New Ireland, and the crafting of kites made from coconut leaves with spider webs attached, tools used by fishermen to catch fish. Mitchell said the loss of these practices is not just a matter of cultural erosion, but a missed opportunity to revive and integrate sustainable methods into modern fisheries management. He calls on communities to document and teach these traditional practices to future generations. Christians across Canberra have marked Easter Sunday with prayers, rhymes, and even a few Easter eggs. The day that marks the rising of Christ began early, with some gathering in the dark to greet the dawn.
An article of faith. Among the dawn services, this small band gathered outside, happy to meet the rising sun on Easter Day as they prepared to take bread and wine in communion.
He broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me."
Across town, Reverend Benjamin Edwards played to a packed house at St Paul's in Manuka.
Forever and ever.
Amen. The settings may have differed, but in each place the rituals of 2,000 years of history were played out in similar fashion, and the Christian message was clear.
The Christian message about Easter is that we can always have hope, because there's no situation that is beyond God. There's nothing that's too far for God to get to.
Easter means to me a new life, from when Christ has died on the cross for us and from rising again. That gives me hope.
I think it's a time that brings families together and renews our faith.
Easter means that God is still alive. Jesus is coming to save us. Yeah. And he's giving a promise every day that life goes on and we have hope in him and we would see him again in heaven.
And while the story is old, one new minister in Canberra looked forward to her first chance to deliver an Easter service.
It's fresh and exciting and such a joy to open up this really old story, but a story that's still so relevant to people.
And earthly matters were on the minds of others as they delivered their message of hope.
We live in uncertain times. People are facing economic uncertainties. There's a rising cost of living. There's uncertainties with the whole world trading system.
Of course, there were a few of these around.
Ready, set and go!
But church was also fun, filled with bubbles, every time someone said Alleluia.
Easter Sunday brought a pause in hostilities among Australian leaders, but after a brief, they are preparing for the sprint to polling day. Early voting begins on Tuesday, and while Labor is feeling buoyant, the Liberals are facing questions about whether they have left it too late to convince Australians to back their plans and vote for change.
Over the halfway mark and getting ready to inject some heat into their campaigns.
We need the LNP to win government now.
That's our plan.
With wife Kirrilly by his side, Peter Dutton spent Easter Sunday in the marginal Labor-held seat of Blair.
Remember what is important in life, and what is important is family, our friends.
Anthony Albanese returned to a spiritual home.
We'll get there. 13 days to go, but who's counting? Me.
Reflecting on his time at St Mary's School and seeing Christian values in action.
We weren't able to afford school fees, and in an act of generosity said just pay what you can.
Inside the cathedral, the Prime Minister and his fiancée Jodie listened to teachings on the triumph of good over evil. On the ABC's Insiders program, the Greens leader preached the importance of good housing policies over bad.
We've got a bit of a spring in our step.
With the polls pointing to a possible hung parliament, Adam Bandt wants bureaucrats to begin work now, costing his plans to wind back negative gearing and capital gains tax.
We've got to really, diffuse this time bomb in a way that's fair.
Labor isn't touching that ticking time bomb at this election. The coalition's questioned its plans beyond that.
If the government is planning to abolish negative gearing and change CGT after the election, they've just got to come clear with the Australian people.
Asked if he takes advantage of the tax breaks as the owner of 2 investment properties, Michael Sukkar was initially hesitant.
I think I'm probably in positive gearing territory.
You don't know if you're negative gearing?
No, my properties are positively geared.
Extracting the truth in this contest is proving harder by the day. Labor claims its network of urgent care clinics are on the chopping block if Peter Dutton wins. The opposition has left it later than usual to put its full suite of policy offerings on the table. But according to senior figures, it's by design. With early voting to begin on Tuesday, the coalition reckons voters are only starting to tune in, and it's aiming to capture their attention when they do.
There's no one on our side waving a white flag.
Peter Dutton's down in the polls, but not out.
An Easter rodeo in Queensland's far southwest has proved a much-needed moral boost after the region was hit by record-breaking rain and flooding almost 1 month ago. Glaciers in the region are still coming to terms with the aftermath, and for some it's been the first opportunity to talk about it.
It's a highly anticipated event in the Outback calendar.
Funny how it's simple things in life.
But this year's rodeo in the tiny town of Eromanga has taken on new meaning.
Today was more about our community than our event.
Eromanga is one of many communities picking up the pieces after floodwaters devastated the state's west. While the town itself remained mostly unscathed, nearby properties were not so lucky.
Everyone had run several good years up here, and everyone's carrying large numbers of stock. And they said, oh, finally on top, and it's gone.
We lost 90% of our stud down the Wilson River, and that's tough. You just have to decide, don't you, whether you're going to rebuild and start again or whether you're going to walk away. And my husband and I don't walk away easily.
Despite graziers still counting the losses, organisers pulled together to make the rodeo happen.
It was a bit of a rush, but we got it together in the end. Everyone is in the same boat, although the scale might be different for some. Everyone went through it.
I think a lot of people still are in shock. I think a lot of people probably still haven't come to the real truth of it, because most people still haven't mustered their sheep and cattle.
Last month, these rodeo grounds were flooded. Now the water has receded, locals can come together, share a laugh and support one another.
And that's people in the bush in general, mate. We'll just make it work.
The competition in the arena this weekend coming second to social connection. A resilient community staying optimistic.
We're back, baby!
I think the future out here is quite strong. Hopefully, what we'll see good prices out the other end for the livestock producers and hopefully a good tourist season for the towns.
In sports, the VT Roofing Devil Barbers have matched as the champions of the new Power Sports Stock Sevens Men's Cup, securing a hard-fought 15-5 victory against the Valley Mentors in a thrilling final held at Bava Rugby Park. The final was played in front of a crowd on Sunday, with the Devil Barbers demonstrating exceptional skills and speed throughout the match. The competition proved challenging for local teams who struggled to match the pace set by the Fijian team. The Devil Barbers advanced through the tournament undefeated, facing tough competition. In the decisive final, the Valley Mentors initially took the lead with an early try, but the Devil Barbers quickly found their rhyme, scoring 3 unanswered tries in the second half to clinch the victory and claim the $20,000 cash prize. This victory marks a historic moment, as it is the first time the cup has been won by a team from outside Papua New Guinea. And that ends the midday news. To join us at 6 for more.
This is the barn where